Good morning. I'm Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, your quick dose of the best new nonfiction from some of the smartest authors around. And today's comes from Harvard cognitive psychologist, public intellectual, and best-selling author Steven Pinker, who's out with a new book called When Everyone Knows That Everyone Knows: Common Knowledge and the Mysteries of Money, Power, and Everyday Life. In the book, he shows how public shared awareness shapes everything from markets and politics to first dates and social media pile-ons, and why understanding it can make you a sharper decision maker and a better collaborator. Steven joins us to share some big ideas from the book right after this quick break.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Steve Pinker. I'm a cognitive scientist and a professor of psychology at Harvard. I've spent my life thinking about how people think, so it's natural that my latest book is about how people think about what other people think they think. Let me tell you why this is so important in understanding politics, money, and everyday life. A first insight. When the little boy said the emperor was naked, he wasn't telling anyone anything they didn't already know. But he added to their knowledge nonetheless. By blurting out what every onlooker could see within earshot of the others, he ensured that they now knew that everyone else knew what they knew, and everyone knew that, and so on. And that changed their relationship with the editor from obsequious deference to ridicule and scorn. Hans Christian Andersen's immortal story draws on a momentous logical distinction. With private knowledge, I know something and you know it. With common knowledge, I know that fact and you know it, but in addition, I know that you know it, and you know that I know it. On top of that, I know that you know that I know it, and you know that I know that you know it, and so on ad infinitum. This matters because common knowledge is necessary for coordination. In a classic example from Thomas Schelling, a couple gets separated in New York, incommunicado, and somehow have to find each other. He knows that she likes to hang out in a bookstore, so he heads there, but then realizes that she will predict that he will go to a camera store, so he changes course and heads there. Until he realizes that she will anticipate that he will guess that she will opt for the bookstore, so he does another about-face, only for it to dawn on him that it will occur to her that he knows she is aware that he likes to haunt the camera store, so he pirouettes once again. Meanwhile, she is whipsawed by the same futile empathy. Nothing short of common knowledge can guarantee they'll end up at the same place at the same time. A second insight. Of course, people can't literally think an infinite chain of I know that she knows thoughts, what cognitive psychologists call recursive mentalizing. Our heads start to spin with 3 or 4 layers, let alone an infinite number. In a well-known episode of Friends, Phoebe says,
"They don't know that we know they know we know." Joe, you can't say anything.
And Joey replies, I couldn't even if I wanted to. Instead, common knowledge can be captured in a simple mental state, the intuition that something is self-evident or public or out there. That can be conveyed through direct speech, in their case, a cell phone call. Indeed, solving coordination dilemmas is probably the reason our species evolved language in the first place. The next best thing to a public event is a focal point, or common salience. Schelling suggests that the separated couple might go to the big clock at Grand Central Station, even if it wasn't close to where they'd been separated, simply because each knew it was likely to pop out in the mind of the other. A third solution is a convention, a tacit agreement among people to do things in a certain way for no other reason than that they agree to do it that way, which is reason enough. The couple might agree that if they're ever separated again, they'll adopt the convention of chivalry and meet at the bookstore, or patriarchy and meet at the camera store, or whimsy and meet at a department store lost and found, or fairness and flip a coin or take turns. A third insight. On larger scales, focal points and conventions drive our financial and legal coordination. An obvious example is driving on the right or left. It doesn't matter as long as everyone agrees on the same side. As in the joke where a woman calls her husband during his commute and says, "Be careful, honey. They say on the radio there's a maniac driving on the wrong side of the freeway." He replies, "One maniac? There are hundreds of them." Another obvious example is currency, where I accept a piece of paper in exchange for an old couch because I know my grocer will accept it in exchange for some food, because he knows that his suppliers will accept it, and so on. Not all the examples are obvious. Why are autocrats terrified of public protests? The basic reason was explained by Gandhi in the eponymous movie.
100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
But although citizens can refuse to cooperate if each one fears that no one else will join him. In a public demonstration, each protester can not only see the others, but see the others are seeing the others. This common knowledge can allow them to coordinate their resistance, whether by literally storming the palace or by bringing the state machinery to a halt through work stoppages and boycotts. This is the basis for a joke from the old Soviet Union about a man standing in the Moscow train station handing out leaflets to passers-by. Soon enough, the KGB arrest him, only to discover that the leaflets are blank sheets of paper. "What is the meaning of this?" they demand. The man replies, "What's there to write? It's so obvious." The point of the joke is that the man was generating subversive common knowledge. And in a case of life imitating a joke, in 2022, Russian police arrested a woman for, yes, holding a blank sign. Another unobvious example is from finance. John Maynard Keynes compared professional investment to a newspaper beauty contest in which the goal is not to choose the prettiest face, as in the old Miss Rheingold beer ads, but the face that is chosen by the most other competitors, each of whom is anticipating the choices of the other competitors, anticipating the same thing. So speculative investors buy securities not because of their productive value, but because they hope they can unload them on other investors, greater fools, and so on. This means that exuberant cycles of recursive mentalizing can be set off by a conspicuous focal point, like a Super Bowl ad. Everyone knows that everyone watches the Super Bowl, and everyone knows that. In 2022, cryptocurrency exchanges ran high-concept ads that tried to gin up a common expectation of rising prices, not by touting any advantages of crypto, but by warning, "Don't be like Larry, don't miss out." Of course, it's only so long that an asset can levitate in midair, suspended by nothing but common expectation. Bubbles pop when a market starts running out of the greater fools who don't want to miss out on the next big thing, or when a reason for doubt itself becomes common knowledge. That can send investors running for the exits, each desperate to sell the asset out of fear that still others are selling it. The result can be a bank run, a hyperinflation, or a depression. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," it was not a feel-good bromide, but a theorem of common knowledge. With investors always on the lookout for focal points, economic leaders must be careful wordsmiths. Alan Greenspan once said, "Since I've become a central banker, I've learned to mumble with great incoherence. If I seem unduly clear to you, you must have misunderstood what I said." When Jimmy Carter's inflation czar, Alfred Kahn, was told by his boss never to use the self-fulfilling word depression, he said, "We're in danger of having the worst banana in 45 years. A fourth insight. My own interest in common knowledge comes from its role in everyday life. Social relationships are coordination games. Two people are friends, or lovers, or allies, or dominant and subordinate, or transactional partners because each knows that the other knows they are. These understandings are cemented by a number of common knowledge generators, like eye contact, where you're looking at the part of the person who's looking at the part of you that's looking at that part of them, or blushing, where you feel the heat of your face reddening from the inside, knowing your onlookers are seeing it from the outside. Or laughter, where a conspicuous noise exposes the common assumptions held by everyone who gets the joke. Conversely, when we don't want to upend a relationship, we take steps to avoid the common knowledge that would threaten it. We avoid looking someone in the eye, or ignore the elephant in the room, or mumble with great incoherence. This explains why people often don't blurt out what they mean in so many words, but veil their intentions in euphemism and innuendo. There's the classic sexual come on, would you like to come up and see my etchings? Which by the 1930s was familiar enough that James Thurber drew a cartoon in which a hapless man says to his date, "You wait here and I'll bring the etchings down." Nowadays, etchings has become Netflix and chill. People also veil their bribes, as in, "Gee, officer, is there some way we can settle the ticket here?" And their threats, as in, "Nice story you got there. Real shame if something happened to it." The point of an innuendo is not exactly to provide plausible deniability. These euphemisms don't pass the giggle test, but that they provide plausible deniability of common knowledge. If Harry says, "Want to come up for Netflix and chill?" and Sally says no, then Sally knows she's turned down an overture, and Harry knows she's turned down an overture. But does Sally know that Harry knows? She could think, maybe Harry thinks I'm naive. And does Harry know that Sally knows that he knows? He could think, maybe Sally thinks I'm dense. With no common knowledge, they can maintain the fiction of a platonic friendship. But if Harry had said, "Would you like to come up and have sex?" then Harry knows that Sally knows that Harry knows that Sally knows, and they cannot maintain the fiction of a friendship. That's what lies behind the feeling that with blurted out speech, you can't take it back. It's out there. A fifth insight. The logic of coordination and common knowledge explains why we deplore all the hypocrisy and white lies and role-playing and rituals of social relationships, but in reality would not want to live without them. As dystopian comedies like Liar, Liar play out, our relationships are cemented by commonly accepted creeds of unstinting loyalty, generosity, and fidelity. Privately, we know they're fictions, but making them common knowledge would pollute the pool of assumptions that allow us to get along. In sum, many seemingly arbitrary conventions in political, economic, and social life may be solutions to coordination games that depend on common knowledge. And many of our rituals and hypocrisies are driven by the need to avoid it. I'll leave it to you to ponder how this may explain other puzzles like social media shaming mobs, Kardashian celebrity, where someone is famous for being famous, strategic ambiguity in international relations, the difference between CC and BCC in email etiquette, and the classic definition of a gaffe in Washington when a politician says something that is true.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, everyone, you can pick up a copy of When Everyone Knows That Everyone Knows wherever fine books are sold, or you can use the link in the episode notes. If you got something out of today's show, please leave us a glowing rating and a 5-star review so others can find the show too. That's our show for the day. Hope to see you tomorrow.